How can we revive the British High Street? Now, just before coming on air, I spoke to Hussein Lalani, who's the co-founder and director of 99p Stores. I started off by asking him if he agreed with commentators who are reporting the terminal decline of the British High Street.
No, I think that's being overly pessimistic, and I think it's a bit of doom-mongering. Yes, there is a lot of challenges on the High Street at the moment, but I think the British population are avid shoppers, and we may have slowed down for a little bit, but we're by no means gone.
Do you think the retail sector, though, is changing enough or being able to adapt to change? Because so many retail chains seem to be in difficulties at the moment. Today, Oddbins looks as if it's going to go into administration. We've had figures from a couple of other chains showing plummeting retail sales. Record stores, CD stores are going out of business. Bookshops are having a difficult time. There's not a lot of optimism out there.
That's right, but then some of the stores you've just pointed out, things like bookshops, CD shops or DVD stores, and even electrical stores. I think it's Currys and Dixon's Group gave a profits warning yesterday. But these are all categories that have been severely impacted by the internet. And it's a lot easier to shop for electrical, for books, things like that on the internet. So it may be that people are not necessarily stopping shopping, but they're switching their shopping from bricks and mortar to online.
But that's my point, in that a lot of people are shopping now on the internet. They're also preferring to shop in out-of-town shopping centres. They're not actually doing a lot of their shopping on the normal, traditional high street.
I think there is some of that, and I think the recession definitely brought that to the surface. And there are some high streets where you've got effectively a gap-toothed high street, especially when companies like Woolworths, big anchor tenants who have gone, and all of a sudden there's no reason to go to that particular end of the high street. So there are some challenges on the high streets. But I think also the councils have partly to accept some blame for that by having their really tight parking regulations, by charging so much for parking in town centres and near high streets. People often would rather go to an out-of-town shopping centre or retail park where they don't have to pay for parking or worry about wardens.
Now, let's see if you agree with this. My view is that in 5 to 10 years' time, there will be a revival of independent stores on the British High Street, and we'll get back that variety that I think we've lost at the moment. And the reason I say that is because I think landlords will have to stop charging the exorbitant rents that they're charging at the moment, and which effectively force small independent retailers out of town centres. Do you think that's likely to happen in the future? They'll maybe reduce the rents?
I think there has to be actually a change in the law. At the moment, and I may need correction on this, but my understanding is that rents can only go upwards. There's a clause in every tenant, every shopkeeper's lease that says rent reviews can only go up, which is very unfair because there are certain parts of town that maybe are going downhill and they can't keep charging the same rent or even charging more rent, and landlords have to accept that they've got to alter their price according to market conditions and how that particular part of town has changed and how the economy has changed.
So if you were an advisor to, I don't know, Vince Cable, the business department, and he said to you, right, Hussein, give me the recipe for reviving the British High Street, what would you be saying to him?
I'd say, number one, we need free parking in town centres and near high streets. Number two, we need to have a change in the lease laws on how the leases are constructed and this upward-only rent reviews. Those two things will be very important. And also, one thing we haven't talked about is the banks and the bank support for independent retailers. I think a lot of independent retailers and small chains have gone under because they haven't had the bank support, and banks are being very cautious with their lending, putting back loans, not giving out, not doing refinance. And that's also had an impact on small retailers. So if we can get those three things sorted, I think we could see a bit of a revival.
Now, I'm told that, you run a chain called 99p Stores, and I'm told that you're regarded as what's called an anchor tenant by landlords because you bring a lot of customers into a particular location. How have you managed to expand your business so fast?
Well, the reason why we've done fairly well out of the last couple of years is because we know exactly what our customers want, and we give them the products they want at the right prices. And that's what's kept us busy and kept customers coming into our stores. In terms of us being an anchor tenant, that makes me laugh, because when we started this business, it's our 10th anniversary this year, in fact. When we started, we had such a hard time convincing landlords, shopping centres, that we were a serious and viable business. And they turn their noses at us. And now you're right, we become an anchor tenant, and we actually get landlords writing to us and saying, we don't have a discount store in our shopping centre, because we have to give it a full offering, and we've got customers who want discounts. And you're right, we do have very high footfall compared to other retailers. An average store of ours would serve up to 2,000 customers a day, which is high for retail.
What areas are expanding in retail at the moment? We all know about the areas that are contracting. I've mentioned some of them a little earlier. What kind of shops are actually doing rather well?
It's actually discount stores, the sector I'm in. My company's doubled in size over the past, more than doubled in size over the past 24 months. There's other single-price retailers who have also grown rapidly. And then there's also multi-price retailers who basically are like a discount department store. In fact, we've started a second brand now called Family Bargains, which is aimed at retail parks. And again, because there's so many empty sites on retail parks. After MFI went, after Land of Leather went, there's a lot of sites that are empty, and landlords are getting a bit twitchy, needing to rent these sites out. So we've started Family Bargains, which has multi-price. We sell beds, we sell vacuum cleaners, as well as everyday goods as well.
What are the dangers in a business like yours when you're doing well, you want to expand? How do you avoid the dangers of expanding too quickly?
There's nothing wrong with expanding too quickly. It's always, where do you expand into? And in property, they always say location, location, location. And that is paramount in retail. You've got to have the right spots where you've got the right type of customer who want to go into your shops, and your shop is easily accessible. If you get the right site, then that's half the battle achieved already.
And that was Hussein Lalani, who's the co-founder and director of 99p Stores. I spoke to him a little bit. There's some very interesting points he made there, which lots of you are echoing in your text and indeed your calls. Vittorio has texted to say, I agree with your comments on freehold. I owned a sandwich bar, Capri, opposite the passport office at Victoria. In fact, I think I've bought a sandwich from you before. In 5 years, they've doubled my rent to £48,000 per annum. I closed down last week. Who will take it at that rent? I just don't know. Well, Victoria, I'm really sorry about that. I really sympathise with you. Brian in Peckham says, Peckham High Street, hair shop, pound shop, nail shop, chicken shop, veg shop. One end to the other. Too cheap. No good shops want to be there. How can we revive the British High Street? Now, just before coming on air, I spoke to Hussein Lalani, who's the co-founder and director of 99